Between the years 2005 and 2010, Forsyth County Schools was one of the third fastest growing school districts in the country. But our four panelists this morning, they'll share with you some things that we believe can revolutionize and create greater learning opportunities for students, but also help Georgia as we compete not only within our state, but in our nation, but internationally when it comes to education.
I'm the Chief Academic Officer for a global company called It's Learning. That it's really exciting to see that, through the Project of North Georgia Network, that those school districts have got unlimited bandwidth resources to connect their students and their classrooms to not only each other, but also across the nation, across the globe. And the company that I work for has 4 million users in a learning platform. And it's, I would say, a blended learning product where it's, you're in the platform, but you're also in class and you leverage both. We really need to focus on the biggest challenge, and that is having adequate access to content, having adequate access to online resources. And more importantly, in the K-12 sector, having access to those resources in a chunked format, not that we buy the entire curriculum, but rather we buy the pieces of the curriculum that we need to meet student needs. Access to this is key. You see increasing implementations of students being able to bring in their own devices. For those districts that are able, the district provides a device for each child. You oftentimes see a hybrid of both. Students are bringing in their own device, and the district has equipment that they can use, a hybrid environment, if you will. We have to come to grips with the fact that for a student to be successful in this country and be competitive across the globe, students are going to have a device, period. And the last thing that I would like to share is that we do have to kind of take into account and appreciate the fact that our students can be producers of good content and contribute to the instructional process in ways that we might not have recognized in the past.
A lot of these same themes of accessibility, personalized education, really delivering what the individual student needs, are very much themes that we're dealing with in higher ed as well. But the fastest growing segment of the college-bound population are what we used to call non-traditional students, the adult learners. They're working, they're balancing family, and they're going back to school. We have a huge population in Georgia of folks that have some college but never completed a degree. We need to be able to provide access to those folks, and online education is a great way of doing that. The personalized piece we see with a more modularized approach to education that a lot of schools are experimenting with, particularly in the cases where we have to do remediation. If you're talking about math and you're talking about English, frequently, a student does not need to complete an entire remedial course. They're not rusty in everything, just 1 or 2 modules. So why make them spend all of that time repeating an entire course? You have wonderful opportunities facilitated by digital technology that allow students to apply to real situations. You talk about students making the connection between what they're studying and what's going on in the world. That's really powerful.
About 10 or 11 years ago, we were wrestling with a problem that a lot of schools in Georgia, well actually in a lot of places, still wrestle with today, and that was our connectivity to the internet. We literally had to turn off our internet at several schools just so we could do online testing at another school. Even today, the standard out there is 3 megabits per school. We finally did get our bandwidth issue resolved. We became the poster child for the Board of Regents, and they allow us to run a cable from their backbone into our server. And then, of course, we had the 1 gigabyte fiber out to all the schools. And for a short time there, we were the most well-connected school in the Americas. I was brought into my superintendent's office. He said, boy, this was a great achievement, but what do we need all this bandwidth for? And so it basically came down to me to say, well, we can do the extraordinary. We can show what life is like in the education arena outside, on the other side of the bandwidth. We create a curriculum. It's a flipped classroom where all students have an iPad. They go at home to do their traditional type work that they would do on a one-to-one online school type situation. But in the classroom, we're working on projects that have been aligned from what's going on in the lab with what's going on in that science curriculum. So that we never hear a student say, why do I need to know this? Because somebody's making their living using that formula to make corn grow taller. And they're exposed to that all the time. They control telescopes in Australia. They photograph galaxies. 2 of them are working on a planet hunting team. The thing we're most proud of is that behind the scenes, you don't see a lot of this, but when we create that lesson plan or those projects that merge what's going on in the lab, we call that a course enhancement. So the core curriculum is still in place. We're not taking anything away. We're enhancing it with a real-world experience. But you need a network that supports it, and George is on the edge of putting that network together so that this type of thing can be piped into almost any school in Georgia within the next couple of years. That's pretty much the goal.
I do work for Blue Ridge Mountain EMC in Young Harris, Georgia. I've helped to plan and build several different networks already in my role as an economic developer, but particularly of interest to me and proud accomplishment is my role in helping orchestrate what was called the WNC EdNet, which was a regional schools initiative, and also the education network that we've been able to build and partner with the school systems on here in Georgia as well. Economic development relies on education. If we don't have a trained workforce, if we don't have a community that's cutting edge, you don't attract the best and the brightest. You don't attract those new companies. We're awarded one of the top 10 digital innovators in North Carolina by the governor's office. So you can see that maybe we're seeing some fruits of our labor already on the table. We've increased our number of students taking AP exams, for example. We were one of 2 districts in North Carolina that was just announced by the College Board on the AP Honor Roll. 2 districts in our whole state made the AP Honor Roll out of 477 nationally. We were one of them. And what they're awarding there is the number of students taking AP exams, but also improving their scores on AP exams. And I'll submit to you that the way we did that was through our digital learning. We were able to share teachers. We've got 5 high schools, 3 traditional, 1 early college, and an alternative school. And we were able to share teachers in our district that we never were able to do before and teach at all the high schools or at all 3 of our traditional high schools, share 1 teacher and share those AP courses across the district.
I think for innovation to succeed, it's really an issue of leadership. It's an issue of courage on the part of leadership to step out there and think about things differently, to evangelize, if you will, to teaching staff and to students that you won't be penalized if this doesn't go the way we thought it would, but rather we need to ask our students, we need to get feedback from our teachers and allow them the space to innovate, allow them the ability to fail possibly, and step back and maybe try it again another way. That's what I think is key to district innovation.
So I do think you have to have that innovation when somebody comes forward and saying, okay, how do you move forward on that? Where's the mechanism by which we can process that? And I think that's important.
And in our case, getting the faculty on board, allowing sort of free rein to their creativity in their work with the students is paramount. And so at the University of North Georgia, for instance, Dr. Jacobs, our president, has announced a whole series of special awards and grants to faculty. One set of grants that really focuses on supporting faculty research so they stay cutting edge and they continue to innovate in their field. There's a set of awards that faculty can propose projects that are key to impacting student learning. And we're really looking at high-impact practices, engaged learning, collaborative learning, the use of technology, the integration of global studies into the learning. And so faculty compete for these prizes with their best ideas. We do a lot of piloting of ideas with seed money. I mentioned earlier a modularized approach to the pedagogies in our remedial education. Those are pilot programs. We actively seek grants to build in some of those pilots. And just the other piece I would say with our students is getting them involved in undergraduate research and highly collaborative learning. If you change the focus in the classroom to the student as opposed to sort of the sage on the stage and really create a collaborative learning environment, you create that environment where those ideas are generated, where students aren't afraid to throw new things out and question, and we really try to move towards that in our classroom.
The challenges that we face to continued innovation are pretty clear for us right now. The first is technology equity among our students. That seems to be one of our biggest challenges. Second is the cost of ongoing technology refreshes. When I asked our technology coordinator what her biggest challenge is right now, she said to me that the intersection, trying to figure out the sweet spot of achieving the harmony between the technology itself, the teacher knowledge, and the teacher pedagogy. We need to impress on the leadership in the legislature, at the school board level, at the county government level, that we need them to think differently about things like FTE, for example. We need the technical schools and the public schools and the higher education schools to not be competing for an FTE, but rather figure out ways to creatively share that.